Hello, hello. Hey, Dr.
Oh,
Bruce.
hello, Dr. Toni.
We've had 2 weeks away from our lives, haven't we? Because it's been St. Paddy's Day or St. Patrick's Day and something
It
else over there.
was the wearing of the green. Uh,
Woo!
yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. Oh no, there was something else. I forget what it was. There was something the week before that, and then there was St. Patty's Day, and yeah, we had a time change. That's right. The week
We had
before
the
that.
time change. So, gosh, we may have the wrong time on, or I may, on
So
the
you might
on
have
the
tried.
thumbnail. So hopefully we're going to get to the people at the right time. It didn't change as far as the event time was, but the time changed in America and I missed it. So
Right.
hopefully everyone's going to join us here at the right time. Hey,
And, and,
Paul.
oh, we got.
Hello there, Paul. Paul's coming to us from Noosa, which is the most paradise place on the planet here in
Really?
Australia on the Sunshine Coast. So thanks for joining us, Paul. And we have an exciting topic today, don't we, Dr. Bruce?
Oh, this is one that Rod Serling would have loved. He left us much too early. Rod Serling did, Twilight Zone, and this very well fits into a Twilight Zone theme. I wish we could have cued the music.
Oh, I wish. So we are
Uh,
talking about the Mandela Effect,
man,
time
that's one
slips,
of the
and
anomalies.
alternate universes.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to. We're going to talk about Mandela Effect. We're also going to talk about time slips, and if speaking of time, if time permits, alternative universes and how they exist in time and out of time.
We may
Um,
have got a bit carried away with putting so many extraordinarily interesting topics in one show, but there's nothing stopping us coming back next time.
we might have bit off more than we can chew in our enthusiasm. But I'm going to ask if anybody out there has any of these stories. I did put a call out on my, I put one out on Tony's group too, and a couple of people responded, and we're going to go through that. Let me grab my phone or whatever here.
Through people's stories of when they've experienced a time
What they've
slip.
experienced in that. And I think it was mostly had to do with time slips. I haven't seen any Mandela Effect ones yet, but maybe one will come in. But let's start with the Mandela Effect.
What is the Mandela Effect?
What is the Mandela Effect? It's when a large group of people collectively remember that something happened or looked a certain way when in reality it never did. Okay. Now, the reason it was named the Mandela Effect, it was named by a lady by the name of Fiona Broom, I think I have it right, who had a vivid memory of the former South African President Nelson Mandela dying in jail in the 1980s in prison, even though in actuality he lived until 2013. Now, as Broom began to talk to other people about her memories, she learned that she wasn't the only one. She wasn't alone. Others remembered seeing news coverage of his death, as well as a speech by his widow. And she soon discovered that, strangely enough, many people also believed that he'd been dead for years. And this led to the discovery of many other cases of what the scientists will tell you, those are mass false memories. But are they in reality? Because there is an alternative explanation to that. Now, there are other examples. And some of you folks, either listening live or maybe catching this again on a replay, it might give you pause to think. Now, how many of you have played the board game Monopoly? I know we used to play. I think we used to have game night every Saturday night when I was a kid. And Monopoly was one of the games that we always played, along with Clue. And there is a character in Monopoly that I didn't even know his name until I was researching this. It's called Uncle Pennybags. I always thought it was Mr. Moneybags, Uncle Pennybags. He was that little guy who ran around. He had like a tuxedo on. And the question was, did he have a monocle or did he not? Some people remember him having a monocle. They swear that, but in actuality, he did not have him. He did not wear a monocle. So some of you out there might think, do you remember Uncle Pennybags from Monopoly? Do you remember him having a monocle or not? Another example, If you're a guy, you probably wore Fruit of the Loom underwear at some time. Now, did Fruit of the Loom, the advertisement of Fruit of the Loom, obviously have fruit? It's called Fruit of the Loom. All right. So, but did it have the fruit coming out of a cornucopia? You know what that is? It's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
cornucopia, or not? Okay. I remember it in front of a cornucopia, but in actuality, it did not. It was just a bunch of pieces of fruit sitting there. Fruit of the Loom. Here's another one. Mickey Mouse. The venerable Mickey Mouse. Everybody knows who Mickey Mouse is. Well, did Mickey Mouse wear suspenders or not? I remember him. I kind of remember him. I would say yes if someone would have
I
put a
would
gun
say
to me.
yes.
Yeah, but he didn't. No, Mickey Mouse never had suspenders.
Oh.
How many of you remember the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? You saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Huh?
Yes.
What did the evil queen say to the mirror on the wall?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all?
She did not. That's the way I remember it. Mirror, mirror on the wall. In actuality, what they're saying, she said, magic mirror on the wall.
Oh.
But ask anybody. Mirror, I remember it mirror, mirror on the wall.
Oh.
And have any Star Wars fans out there? Okay. The iconic scene, I guess it was in the original Star Wars movie, where Darth Vader confronted Luke Skywalker. And most people swear that he said, Luke, I am your father. Actually, he did not. He said, no, I am your father. But most people quote it, or perhaps remember it as, Luke, I am your father.
Oh, right.
For all you classic movie buffs out there, the movie, arguably the most famous movie of all time, Casablanca, with Humphrey Bogart and what the hell's the name? Yeah, I'm blanking. Anyway, in that movie, did the character who played Ilsa, everyone swears that she said, play it again, Sam. That's the famous quote.
Yeah, what did she say?
She did not. She said, play it once, Sam.
What?
She said, play it once, Sam.
Oh.
I remember her saying, play it again, Sam.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain explanations for this. One of them is that Woody Allen did make a movie called Play It Again, Sam. And so they say, well, that's why people are saying that. Who's that? Richard. Oh, hello, Richard. Saying a very nice hello to both of us. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So actually, what she said was, play it once, Sam.
That's crazy. So that's the Mandela Effect.
That is the now. I have my own Mandela Effect story to tell.
Okay.
I am kind of a student of history. I loved history when I was a kid. In high school, that was my favorite subject, history. Math is my least favorite subject, but history was my favorite subject. And so I kind of pay attention to history. Now, when this whole COVID thing came down in the end of 2019, 2020, there were talk about it was like a replay in history of the Spanish flu of 1918, 1919.
Yeah.
Where supposedly a 500 million people died during the Spanish flu, and everybody had to wear a mask. And I'm thinking, I don't remember the Spanish flu. I mean, I'm old. I'm not that old. I'm saying I didn't say I was alive during well, maybe I was in another lifetime. But I do not remember studying the Spanish flu in school. The first mention I have ever heard of the Spanish flu was during COVID. And you think that if you study history and you read history of the First World War, the aftermath of the First World War, you would have been exposed to the study of the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
And then I subsequently gone online and looked at it. And yeah, everybody and his Aunt Tilly were wearing masks back then, just like they did, during the COVID.
Yeah.
So that was my own little brush with what I would call my particular Mandela effect, other than thinking that the Monopoly man was wearing a monocle and Fruit of the Loom underwear had the cornucopia. But so cognitive psychology says, the Mandela effect is primarily due to a cognitive function called collective false memory. That's when we remember events that never happened, or we introduce errors and distortions into memories of certain experiences. And these false memories can seem very real and very vivid in one's mind, even though they are entirely incorrect. Or in a quantum mechanical sense, this might boil down to two fundamental questions.
Yeah.
Is it possible that there are multiple possible past histories of the universe where different observable macroscopic outcomes have occurred? What do I mean by a macroscopic outcome? Well, the Mickey Mouse wore suspenders or not would be a macroscopic outcome, right? Whether Uncle Pennybags wore a monocle, that would be a macroscopic
Kind of
outcome.
inconsequential.
It's not going to change the course of history,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Like going and killing Hitler when he was a kid, that would change the course of history. But so the question is, possible explanation. Is it possible there are multiple past histories of the universe where different observable macroscopic outcomes have occurred that would lead to a universe today that has the same quantum state that this universe, the one that we're kind of living in now, possesses? And take it another step further, is it possible that a thought, a memory, a past experience, or even a person's consciousness from one of those other universes could overlap or even swap with one from this present universe that we inhabit? Someone posted something like that. I have false memories that I could do a backflip as a child. Actually, this is from Mary Dawn. Actually, I was pretending wholeheartedly into it. Okay.
Okay. That's interesting, Mary.
Does anybody else out there have what they might have experienced what we just described as the Mandela effect? I didn't really pay much attention to what was happening at that time in South Africa. So maybe I could have, I could have thought that he died, but I do seem to remember him Mandela being released from prison and not dying. Now, some people explain it that one of his right-hand men did die in prison too. One of his, I guess, lieutenants went to prison with him and did die.
Right.
But and let's see, I don't think I had. I'm going to go into my group here and see if anyone posted anything on that, because I did do a call for. Maybe if you could do the same, Toni.
I have one. Oh, I need these. Let me read it. This is from Toni Buckley. So you asked for, I think you asked for Mandela Effect or time slip. Let's read what Toni said. Actually, let me bring it over to here so I can put it up and show it on the screen.
If that was a time slip.
This is what Toni said.
That was a time slip. Okay, let's hold on to that and let's talk about.
Oh, okay, that's a time slip. Okay, gotcha. We'll save that one for later.
This was take that off, and let me see if I have any time slips. Any Mandela effect. We don't have too many people with the Mandela effect here. Probably because it's something I never really thought of. I never thought of these things until I started researching it. Another one is I think most people know who Ed McMahon was. He was Johnny Carson's sidekick. And I remember Ed McMahon as being a spokesperson for a Publishers Clearinghouse, which is a big thing here in the United States where they show up and they give people millions of dollars. But they used to get you to sign up for this contest by buying magazine subscriptions, Publishers Clearinghouse. I remember Ed McMahon being a spokesperson and going to these houses, and surprising these people. And he wasn't. He was he was a spokesperson for America's Publishing House, something. It was a rival to them. But I swear that I remember him being a spokesperson for Publishers Clearinghouse, where
Right.
they never even went to the people's houses. However, I watched a YouTube Ed McMahon sittings being interviewed, saying, "Oh yeah, we won. I gave away $1.2 billion by going to people's homes."
Oh,
Was Ed lying? Was he getting senile? Did he have dementia at the time of the interview? I don't know. I don't know.
it's
Okay,
very
time
interesting.
slips. The phenomenon of time slips. This is good. A term that refers to instances where individuals report an unexpected and temporary shift into the past or future, and it's long intrigued both the public and research. Now we're talking time travel here, but time travel in a different way. It's not like what are you folks in Australia and in the UK? They have we don't have Doctor Who over here, so okay, we have H.G. Wells' time machine. But he time travels, does he not? Doctor, is it Doctor
He
Who?
does.
Yeah,
Yes.
in a
In the
phone book,
TARDIS.
right? It was in a phone book that he travels in.
Yeah.
So
In the
you
phone
only
booth.
have Superman changing clothes in the phone booth. So that's Clark Kent, right? Clark Kent changing into Superman in the phone booth. So these experiences challenge our understanding of time. We always think of time as a linear and a constant flow. One event after another. Linear. Okay, linear.
Yeah.
Uh, in the time slips examine historical examples, and they consider theories that attempt to explain this. So in this, time is not linear. It might indeed be circular. So a time slip is an event which a person or a group of people travel through time via unexplained means. Unlike time travel in science fiction, which typically involves technology, usually it's technology or deliberate action. There's an action on this. In the H.G. Wells' time machine, he actually had a time machine that took him back into the past. Time slips are involuntary and they're spontaneous. Those who experience them will often report a sudden and a brief immersion in a different era, with the environment around them appearing to belong to a different time period. One of the most famous cases is what's called the Moberly-Jourdain incident, and this occurred in 1901. Two English women, let's see, her name was Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, claimed to have slipped back in time when visiting the Petit Trianon in Versailles. They reported seeing buildings and people from the late 18th century, including a figure they believed was Marie Antoinette. There is a place in England that is known for time slips. It's in Liverpool, England. It's called Bold Street, B-O-L-D, and it's quite famous for having time slips. Numerous individuals have reported stepping back, and apparently this place is tied somehow to the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And people have reported when strolling down Bold Street of suddenly being in the night and seeing the 1950s and 60s. Shop windows will change. They'll see people dressed in period clothing from the 1950s and 40s and 60s. And there's no, they're not shooting a TV show there. And they've seen cars from that, and vintage cars from that era. They'll hear music from that era. They will encounter people in that era. They even you have conversations with these people. So that's Bold Street, and you can Google it. I Googled this online. There's a lot of stories about Bold Street.
Wow. I'm going to go to Bold Street next time I'm in London.
I'm surprised you didn't know about it.
No, I didn't. This reminds me of also, which I think you may be familiar with this girl as well, but the girl who recalls being, I think it's Anne Boylan, and she told me that her spontaneous recollection kind of sounds like a time slip because she was literally in the castle, like touring like everyone else with her sister, I think. And she said everything changed. And suddenly the paintings on the wall, they were bright again, they're not faded. And she could see the people in the clothes that they wore, and she knew who she was and that the king was there, or all of the details anyway. So it sounds like the way that she recalled that was
that the lady who was my client or your client?
Well, she's not
What?
my client. It was because she spontaneously recalled it, but she told me what happened.
My client was Mary Boylan's.
Yes, mine's Anne,
Yeah,
and
Denise.
she has extraordinary information.
We'll have to have Denise on sometime. Maybe she's watching tonight. If she is, say hello, and would love to have you on sometime. Now, here's someone who did respond to my call for experiences. And this young lady, her name is, she gave me permission to use her name, Laura Mahung. My husband and I have had several experiences recently, like a month ago. We're in our vehicle headed to the expressway. My husband was driving. We stopped at the red traffic light on the bridge by the entrance ramp for the expressway. In front of us, on the right and left side, were open farm fields. And behind us, on the other side of the bridge, was a gas station and a small subdivision of newly built homes. I noticed my husband was staring into the distance and turning his head. He shook his head, closed his eyes, and repeated this a couple of times. I gently placed my hand on his forearm, and he looked at me and then asked, I thought we were headed to the expressway, but it looks like I might have taken a wrong turn. Knowing that he has jumped timelines and dimensions in the past, I asked him what he was seeing. He replied, I see all these houses on both sides of the street, and there's water under this bridge. Everything looks like it's from maybe the early 1900s. Then it all changed right as the traffic light turned green. My husband described what the people were wearing and some other details of old cars and horses with carts or carriages. And apparently this has happened to them or him several times. And that in itself is fascinating. I think you had one, Toni.
That is super fascinating. Super
Yeah,
fascinating.
I
Uh,
really you, but you were in the process of posting your time slip story from your group.
yeah, I have it actually. I can put it up here. So this is from Tony Buckley, and he said he's had quite a few over the years. One was time traveling across the Gateway Bridge in Brisbane late one afternoon, where he lost an hour, where he said he was in a completely different dimension. The color of our world as we know it, it was different. And I believe he could see the moon. And what else is written here? Yeah, he could see the moon, and it was just all looking very different. And then when he came back or flicked back to, an hour had passed. So he claims lots of experiences like that actually. So it's quite extraordinary. I think mine maybe does, maybe doesn't fall into the time slip category. But when I had a car accident when I was 17, I remember that as it's happening, and it's happening very fast, but everything goes so slow, and it's like you're in a time warp for a moment as it all happens. This crash is happening, the car's turning over and over, rolling and hitting things, and then suddenly it stops and you're back in the fast life. So I don't know what kind of time slip that is, but I do know that the detective, we've mentioned him before, there's a detective who recalled a past life, and he told me that all of his detectives that work in the murder cases, when they experience something that's life-threatening, they've all described that everything goes in this slow motion. So what do you say to that? What do you think that's called?
It's called everything going in slow motion. I'm sure there's a psychological reason for that, or something, a neurological reason for that. And I had what I believe was a time slip. Years ago, I used to be on the road. I did seminars for many years in the Southwest. I go into little, what we call one-horse towns in New Mexico and Nevada and West Texas and Arizona. And I did about 2,000 of these seminars. They were weight loss, smoking cessation seminars back then. Once, and I'm trying to remember what the particulars of this were. I believe I had finished a seminar, I believe it was Phoenix, and I had to be, my next seminar was going to be the next day in Yuma, Arizona. And if I remember correctly, it's kind of like 2.5. Arizona is a deceptively big state. And I believe it was going to take like 2.5, 3 hours to get to Yuma from there. And I looked at my watch and I made it there in like an hour. How was that possible? I'm traveling, and all of a sudden, I mean, couldn't have fallen asleep and stayed on the road at that time, but and ahead of me for a long time was an old car that looked to me like from the 1940s. Well, that in itself, there are people who do their old car aficionados and they love the class, but I followed this car from the 1940s for a long ways, and it just seemed like it was twilight, but it never got dark. It stayed twilight for too long of a time. And I made it there. I said, wait a second, how did I make it here so fast? Because this is probably a route that I've done dozens of times before. You know, we didn't have GPSs back then. Back then, I went off a map, and I knew exactly wherever I was traveling. I used to write down, because I had certain places to stop, certain gas stations to stop. I knew to the minute when I was going to hit this particular landmark, and nothing worked out that night. And I swear it took me half the time to get to Yuma from there. And I know I wasn't flying 200 miles an hour, or so I would have been a guest of the local constabulary that night.
Interesting.
That's my time slip story.
Time slips. This could be slightly off topic, but I have had quite a few people describe to me the time lost when they maybe have an alien encounter, but they can't remember it. But they'll be driving along and the light comes into their vehicle, for example, and then they arrive at where they're going, like, 3 hours later or an hour and a half later. So there's quite a lot of stories like that where
maybe those alien kidnapping stories are actually time slips.
Yeah.
Here's one that it's kind of in the same vein, and someone else put that out there, and we'll be able to. Okay, this guy was saying that. Where the hell is that? Oh, I don't know. I'll find it. He talks about, was it Malcolm Boyd? He had some story here about looking for something on a counter, not being able to here. Recently, I started touching everything on the counter with my hands. It happened yesterday. There's the garlic salt right there in front of me, but I didn't see it until I touched it with my hand. So, and I figured that, I wrote back and said, now I have a great excuse to use with my wife whenever I can't find something. She's always saying, it's right in front of your eyes. Look, it's right there. But I don't see it. It's a time slip. That's a good one. I'm going to try that.
An excuse slip.
Guys are known for stuff like that. Always asking their girlfriend this, but where'd you hide this? Where'd you hide that? Right? Like they're supposed to remember. And usually women do remember much more than guys. But maybe it's possible that you think, she's looking at it. It's right over there, right in front of your nose. But I'm not seeing it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I see it.
Time slips.
That's a great excuse, though. I'm going to try
that. Put that one up your sleeve. You can pull that card out when you can't find what you're supposed to be looking for. How funny. Wow. So there we go. There's a few little.
What are the explanations, though? We didn't go into the explanations.
Yeah.
Several theories have been proposed that might explain time slips. One suggestion is that they are a form of hallucination or a psychological phenomenon where the brain interprets stimuli based on expectations or desires. Another theory says that time slips could be the result of natural time wormholes or vortexes that momentarily bridge between different periods. Quantum mechanics offers a potential explanation, with the concept of time being less rigid and more malleable than previously thought. Some physicists speculate that under certain conditions, the linear progression of time might be disrupted, allowing for these temporary glimpses into other eras. It's very challenging to investigate these because they're unpredictable and they're transient. You can't count on it happening. Just like this street in Liverpool, people go there, hoping to get transported back in time. Well, obviously, not all of them do, but researchers are definitely looking into those things. They're very profound. The implications here are profound because they suggest the possibility that our experience of time might not be as fixed as we believe. If time slips are a reality, they could open up new avenues of understanding in physics, consciousness, the nature of reality itself. So maybe time is a more fluid, temporal reality.
Mm-hmm.
Very captivating, very puzzling, and totally intriguing. I find it very intriguing.
Yes, indeed. It is very. Wow.
How are we doing on time? Do we want to go into alternate universes or what?
Time slip. Yeah, let's get into some alternative universes.
Okay. Concept of alternate universes, also known as parallel. You'll hear it called parallel universes. The multiverse is called that. It's very long captivated human imagination because it suggests that the existence of other realms or dimensions that coexist alongside our own dimension, and each has its own unique version of reality. Now, this let's take a look at this and where it comes from. Actually, see the multiverse universe ideas or multiple universe ideas was first advanced by Dr. Hugh Everett in 1955 in his graduate thesis at Princeton University. He essentially posited that at any given moment, the universe divides into countless similar versions. And the next moment, these newborn universes split into in a similar way into more versions. In one universe, you might be watching this video. You might be watching Toni and I talking about this. In another, you might be reading a book. In another, you might be walking your dog. So as Everett explained, the triggering factor for these multiplying worlds is our actions. If we make some choices, a decision point, our universe instantly splits into two different universes with different versions of outcomes. So other physicists scorned his idea, and Everett took it personally and ended his physics career after completing his PhD, which is unfortunate.
Really? Wow.
Who knows what he might also have come up with in 1955.
Yeah.
Now, according to this interpretation, every quantum event spawns a new universe. This leads to an infinite number of universes where every possible outcome is possible. As you know, they become a staple in science fiction, alternate universes. A science fiction writer by the name of Philip K. Dick wrote some really interesting. The Man in the High Castle is a cult classic in science fiction about alternate ending to the Second World War, where Germany controls the eastern part of the United States and Japan controls the western part of the United States. Fascinating book. But what these do is it's fun. It allows us to explore the what ifs of existence. They challenge our understanding, our notions of identity, destiny, choice, and you can have characters encountering different versions of themselves.
Do you think? Oh, sorry, Dr. Bruce. I think that these things are presented in films as not really possible, but really they're presented as fantasy, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think the truth is it is actually possible.
Well, they say truth is stranger than fiction, or
don't they? That's what they say.
What did Shakespeare say? There are more things on heaven and earth, Horatio, than
Well, certainly there's a lot more going on with energy than is proven.
Well, one suggestion for alternate universes suggests the existence of multiple dimensions beyond our familiar three-dimensional space, 3D space. We have 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension in time. So actually, even a 4-dimensional universe. What it speculates, the inflationary multiverse theory posits that during the Big Bang, the rapid expansion of the universe, where matter actually energy moved faster than the speed of light, which is, as we know, is a constant and impossible to travel faster, according to Einstein. Impossible, but in the milliseconds after the Big Bang, it did travel faster than the speed of light. And you had certain bubbles of space-time might have been formed, which gave rise to a separate universe or other universe, not just one separate, other universes with their own physical laws, its own constants. So, it leaves us with some profound philosophical questions about nature, reality, free will, the uniqueness of our universe, right? Because if there are countless other universes, think about this. Are we just one of many possible versions of ourselves? What does that mean for the concept of fate or destiny? Is there an alternate reality where Elvis never died and he's flipping burgers at a McDonald's in Kalamazoo, Michigan?
I think that might be people dreaming on with what they'd like it to be, but surely there are other incarnations of ourselves happening.
Or another universe where Elon Musk is a homeless person living on the streets of.
What isn't that? That's the nature of reincarnation, where you're going to experience all of those realities of having a human experience. So no doubt he probably will be again.
And when we reincarnate, are we actually reincarnating into this universe, or are we touching on another universe? That fellow we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, Robert Lanza, was it Robert? Yeah, the medical doctor, or the biocentrism fellow who wrote the book on biocentrism. He posits that what reincarnation is actually us living again, dying in this universe, and going to live in another universe, multiverse.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess you could look at the reincarnation space as that.
And if that's so, and if we believe that we can choose, we plan our next life in the between lives state, can we plan to exist in another universe, an alternate universe?
These concepts they're certainly edging on, do we have control? But I don't believe, from my trips, not on here, my transcendent trips, that we're not choosing there. It's chosen before we're here, or maybe in any other universe, because all of those are for, in my opinion, for an experience. This one, the school of life.
If we don't choose, then who chooses?
The soul energy.
Okay, now, okay. Well, it's kind of saying the same thing. So we are our souls, or are we our souls, or are we not our souls? So actually, then we do choose. Our soul chooses, is what you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, our soul chooses.
Yeah, and whenever we're incarnated somewhere, here or elsewhere, a portion of that soul energy is then the spirit of me. So right now here, I'm the spirit of Toni, you're the spirit of Dr. Bruce, and I guess we could be someone else on planet Earth at the same time, our soul energy, or elsewhere, other planets.
How's this for a show? How about discussing whether we can plan our next incarnation? We say, yeah, we can. We do. Our souls plan our next incarnation in between. But can we plan our next incarnation while we're still alive in this incarnation? Do we have any influence over that?
I see people asking that. I've got something to say about that. And what I would say is you really should be living life now and not worried about the next life, because we're not choosing our next life consciously. It's done completely outside of choice or free will. All of those things are happening while we're here now. So choose to have fun, or choose to make the most of what we have access to here. I see a lot of people worrying about how they can influence their next life. And it's like, oh my goodness, get in the now.
No, I see people worrying about how they can influence their next life by the actions they take in this life.
Yeah.
And in other words, quote unquote, karma. Okay.
Yes.
About what I do, the choices I make, the karmic choices I make, may or may not, because we've discussed this before. Is there a such thing as karma in the generally accepted case of that? So as you sow, shall you reap, and punishment, karmic punishment and the repercussions. Is there or is there not? That's the topic for another show. But I'm talking about planning the actual details of being, okay, let me retract that. Maybe planning isn't the best word. Can we influence the details of a next life? In this life, can I influence whether I want to reincarnate into Timbuktu? I'm sick of California. Next life, I want to be, well, wherever Timbuktu is. I don't know. But think about it.
Well, you're almost guaranteed to not be going to the same place again. But
I don't know about that.
Well, that's actually a big statement, because some people do go to the same place.
Well, according to Stevenson, I guess, and Jim Matlock, and the ones who have done the studies on this, we tend to reincarnate within about 25 to 30 miles of our previous existence.
Oh, that might be what they found with their kids, because there's purpose in those kids recalling that and then going back to visit their mom or their sister who's now 80, even though they're 3. Because I feel like the purpose in all that is for people to realize that reincarnation exists. So we need those types of stories to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think on a broader scale, reincarnation is to experience all cultures and all aspects of being a human. So it wouldn't make sense if we kept coming back to, I'm in Brisbane at the moment, if we kept coming back to Brisbane. Why? The world's so big,
Oh, Chamber of Commerce in Brisbane is going to love you.
Oh, but I'm here this time.
No, that's interesting. And I think a lot of those were stories from Stevenson's book, Casebook.
Right. Richard says he keeps getting tricked back here with chocolate. But that's so valid, because chocolate or eating something that is yummy that's one of the pleasures of life. I think to a certain extent people don't realize that focusing on those pleasures, treasures, gifts that we have in life, it's really important. I think people think it's got to be some big grand outcome that we're here to achieve. But enjoying chocolate is
who likes the chocolate, the body or the soul?
The body.
Can the soul be a chocoholic?
No, because we don't eat there. We're energy. We don't have a body. That's what I'm saying. On Earth, you have a body with the capacity. It has taste, touch, sound, all of these things. Those things don't exist over there. We're just pure energy.
I think they exist.
Doesn't need to eat or think.
There is evidence that they exist in a holographic sense. Is that you can choose to experience, to a certain degree, in the afterlife, those things that you love to experience here. You can choose to have a day at the beach, in other words, but not going to be exactly the same.
I think that from my observations, all of those ideas and concepts are for the human experience. So the human who needs to believe that their loved one is still there enjoying picking strawberries or whatever they did in life that they love, then that's what it's for. We perceive it so that it makes us feel better about now and here.
But people report that in between live sessions of themselves doing these mundane things that that they did when they were alive, or trying something new that they didn't try when they were alive, you know.
And I would say that if someone is shown that in their between live session or near-death experience, which is very similar, then it's because they're most likely doing something mundane in this life now, and they're seeing, oh, I got a chance to change it, because those sessions that we do are for, and near-death experiences happen for that individual to do something in this life, to change something. It sends them in a different trajectory. It changes their perspective. So I still think that those experiences that people have through us, that we facilitate even, are still for the human experience, for that individual.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I think we can really get into something like this in another show.
We could.
So, all right, anybody else share anything on that? You can't. You someone so you can't taste of the spirit, but you remember the taste. Oh, that was the one Richard said. They keep tricking me back here with chocolate.
Yeah.
Dutch chocolate, that's the best in the world.
Yeah.
I think Dutch.
What's the best?
Dutch. The Dutch really have chocolate down. My first wife was Dutch.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, Dutch chocolate.
Do you like, since we're on chocolate, do you like dark chocolate or milk chocolate? And is Dutch chocolate milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Well, I think they have both. But
just yummy.
Yeah, supposedly, the Dutch supposedly have the best chocolate in the world.
Lindt. Oh, might be wrong, but there you go. Well, there's our big conversation. Got a bit off track there at the end, I did. Okay, let me say, if anybody wants to get a copy of Dr. Bruce's book, it's called Your Journey Was Never Meant to End, and I will post a link right now in here. So if you're watching the replay, you can access this link in the comments. And Richard likes dark chocolate. I like milk chocolate. I think I haven't acquired quite that dark chocolate taste yet. It's always tastes bitter to me. So there you go. Get Dr. Bruce's book there. And while you're at it, I will post a link to my book, which is called Awake the Purpose of Life. And while you're here, it's available on a audio version as well. So whatever you prefer.
By the way, I'm not sure. I think Toni does this too. But I will be posting or moving this live broadcast up to the featured section on my group so that it'll easily accessed. I think you'll find some of the other ones up there too. And anybody who wasn't able to make it tonight will be able to find it there. Do you do that, Toni? Do you move it to the show up to the featured section? Oh, you have a YouTube channel. That's right.
Yes. This is, but you can still post the link and pin it at the top of the group so that people can watch the replay. So yeah, if you're watching the replay, let us know that in the comments as well. Obviously, once we've finished being live. So just so that you know, Dr. Toni and Dr. Bruce going live is going to be happening less frequently. We're going to try once a month, at least for the next chat. It will be in a month's time. We'll create an event so that you can put it in your diary and everything. And also, we're looking at changing the time. We're trying to work out when's the best time when most people can end. And Dr. Bruce is going to be going live in his group, and certainly testing out the times, so that, because we really want to connect more with you and converse more with you and even bring you on with us. So yeah. So Dr. Bruce, you've got a bit of research to do on times, actual research. You're going to test. I got
all the time in the world.
Oh yeah. No time slips.
Yeah.
So yeah. But for thanks for joining us. That is the show for this week.
Okay. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you probably in about a month.
Okay. See you then.
Enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye now.